These trucks were never meant to be gentle. They were forged in an era when engineers built with one goal: never let it die. No computers, no emission systems, no fragile electronics, just raw steel, massive engines, and frames so overbuilt they outlived the companies that made them. Many of these 1970s trucks are still working today. While their modern replacements are already in junkyards, mechanics still study them and ask, how did this survive so long? These are 10 overbuilt 1970s trucks that outlived everything that came after. Number 10. FAW Jiefang CA141. The FAW Jiefang CA141 may be unknown in the West, but in Asia and much of the developing world, it became a legend of endurance. Introduced in the 1970s, the CA141 was China's answer to one brutal reality. A nation rebuilding itself needed trucks that could survive anything, and this truck was built like it expected war. The CA141 was based on heavy military and industrial design principles. Its frame was thick and rigid, designed to handle extreme overloading on broken roads. Suspension components were simple and brutally strong. There was nothing delicate about it. Every part looked oversized for the job it was doing. Under the hood sat a large, slow-revving diesel engine designed for torque and longevity rather than speed. It ran on poor-quality fuel. It tolerated dirty oil. It survived extreme heat and freezing winters. This engine was not refined. It was unyielding. These trucks were sent everywhere. Mountains, deserts, remote villages, construction zones, military convoys. They hauled stone, timber, fuel, machinery, and grain across roads that barely deserved the name. Maintenance was often improvised. Parts were scarce. Mechanics worked with hand tools and creativity. And still, the CA141 kept moving. Drivers overloaded them constantly. Trailers far heavier than rated. Cargo stacked high and uneven. The truck groaned, flexed, and continued. Where modern trucks would throw error codes, derate, or shut down, the Jiefang simply burned more diesel and pushed forward. What made the CA141 truly special was its rebuildability. Every system was mechanical. No computers, no sensors, no locked modules. Engines were rebuilt in roadside workshops. Gearboxes were repaired under trees. Axles were swapped in muddy yards. Many CA141s worked for 30 or 40 years. Some are still running today in rural regions, long after newer imported trucks have failed under the same abuse. Their replacements were faster. They were quieter. They were more comfortable, but they were not stronger. The FAW Jiefang CA141 became proof that when a truck is built for survival instead of convenience, it can outlive generations of improvements. It didn't care about the future. It was built to endure the present. And it did. Number 9. Ashok Leyland Beaver Menke. The Ashok Leyland Beaver Menke 3 was never meant for highways with smooth asphalt and service stations every 100 kilometers. It was built for India's interior where roads disappeared, fuel quality was unpredictable, and breakdowns could mean being stranded for days. This truck became legendary because it refused to stop in places where stopping meant failure. The Beaver Menke 3 was brutally simple. Thick ladder frame, leaf springs that looked like bridge components, a slow-revving diesel that valued torque over speed, no electronics, no fragile systems. Everything about it said, "I will survive whatever you do to me." These trucks hauled stone from quarries, grain from villages, timber from forests, and construction material across half-finished roads. They ran overloaded every single day. Drivers stacked cargo far beyond legal limits because the job demanded it. The Beaver didn't complain. It sagged, it groaned, and it moved. Fuel was often dirty. Maintenance was irregular. Mechanics worked in open yards with basic tools. Yet the engine kept firing. The gearbox kept shifting. The axles kept turning. What made the Beaver truly special was its tolerance for abuse. It ran in desert heat. It crossed flooded roads during monsoons. It climbed mountain passes loaded beyond reason. Modern trucks brought in as replacements often failed, overheating, breaking sensors, derating, refusing to move. The Beaver Menke 3 simply kept going. Many of these trucks worked for 3 decades or more. Some are still alive in rural regions, patched and repainted, hauling loads that would terrify modern machines. It was slow, it was loud, it was uncomfortable, but it never quit. The Beaver proved that in the real world, durability matters more than technology. Number 8. Pegaso 2011. Spain's Pegaso 2011 was born in an era when European heavy trucks were expected to survive terrible roads, extreme heat, and constant overloading, especially in construction and export markets. This was not a delicate highway cruiser. It was an industrial animal. The Pegaso carried a massive diesel engine designed for torque and endurance. It was paired with a heavy manual gearbox and driveline that felt closer to construction equipment than road transport. The frame was thick. The suspension was brutal. Everything about the truck suggested it had been designed for punishment. These trucks worked in quarries, ports, mines, and construction zones. They hauled stone, cement, steel, and machinery. They were run hard, idled for hours, and driven by operators who did not baby equipment, and they survived. What made the Pegaso 2011 remarkable was how little it cared about environment. Dust, heat, vibration, it ignored them. Where newer trucks suffered electrical failures or cooling problems, the Pegaso kept burning fuel and moving forward. Many Pegaso trucks were exported to Africa and the Middle East, where conditions were even harsher. Roads were broken, fuel quality was poor, service networks barely existed, and yet these trucks ran for decades. They were rebuilt instead of replaced. Engines were overhauled, gearboxes were refreshed, frames stayed intact. The truck did not become obsolete, it simply aged. In places where modern replacements failed within a few years, Pegasos remained in service. They didn't win awards, they didn't look modern, they didn't care, they worked. Number 7. Roman Diesel 16.215. Built in Romania during the height of industrial expansion, the Roman Diesel 16.215 was designed with a single assumption: conditions would be terrible. And they were right. These trucks operated across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, regions where roads were broken, fuel was inconsistent, and maintenance support was minimal. Failure was not an option. The Roman Diesel used a heavy, slow-turning engine built for longevity. It wasn't powerful by modern standards, but it was unbreakable. The frame was thick, the suspension brutal, the gearbox industrial. Drivers overloaded them constantly. They ran in heat that melted rubber. They climbed mountain roads with trailers heavier than designed. They crossed deserts and war zones, and they kept going. These trucks became famous for their ability to survive neglect. Oil changes were skipped, filters clogged, repairs were improvised. Yet the engine kept beating. In many regions, Roman trucks outlived newer imports. Modern replacements brought in with electronics and complex systems failed under the same abuse. The Roman kept moving. It became a symbol of industrial honesty, built not to impress, but to endure. Number 6. Scania L110. Bulldog. The Scania L110, known as the Bulldog because of its forward cab design, became one of the toughest European work trucks of the 1970s. This truck earned its name in the harshest environments: mines, timber routes, mountain roads, and industrial haulage. It wasn't built for speed. It was built for survival. The engine was legendary for its endurance. Slow revving, understressed, capable of running enormous hours without major overhaul. The driveline was heavy and mechanical. No computers, no fragile systems. These trucks hauled timber from forests, stone from quarries, and freight across broken infrastructure. They ran overloaded, they ran hot, they ran endlessly, and they refused to die. Many L110s crossed 1 million kilometers. Some ran far beyond that. When they wore out, they were rebuilt, not scrapped. Rebuilt. Even today, some still exist in working condition in remote regions, long after modern replacements have failed. The Bulldog proved that true engineering is not about complexity, it is about endurance. Number 5. Berliet TR 350. The Berliet TR 350 was France's answer to the brutal reality of heavy transport in the 1970s. Long before trucks became rolling computers, Berliet built machines that were closer to industrial equipment than road vehicles. The TR 350 was one of their toughest creations, a long-haul and heavy-haul truck designed to work in places where failure meant being stranded in the middle of nowhere. This truck wasn't elegant. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't refined. It was durable. At its heart was a massive diesel engine designed to run for endless hours under load. It didn't chase horsepower. It chased survival. The engine block was thick, cooling systems oversized, and internal components built with enormous safety margins. It was designed to tolerate bad fuel, long idle periods, and continuous heavy hauling. The frame of the TR 350 looked like it belonged under construction equipment. Thick rails, heavy crossmembers, minimal flex. It could carry and pull weights that destroyed lighter designs. Suspension components were brutally strong. Nothing about the truck suggested it had been built for comfort. It had been built for punishment. These trucks worked across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. They hauled fuel across deserts, machinery across mountains, and freight across broken infrastructure. They ran in heat that cooked paint and cracked rubber. They ran on dusty roads that destroyed bearings and seals, and they survived. Many TR 350s were still working decades later in places where modern trucks failed within years. Electronics-free and fully mechanical, they could be repaired anywhere. Engines were rebuilt under open skies. Gearboxes were serviced in roadside yards. Their replacements were faster and more comfortable. They were also fragile. The Berliet TR 3550 proved that a truck built for hardship will always outlive one built for convenience. Number 4. Seddon Atkinson 400 Series. Britain's Seddon Atkinson 400 Series became legendary in construction, quarrying, and heavy haulage. These were trucks designed for environments that destroyed ordinary vehicles. Mud, dust, vibration, and relentless stop-start work under full load. The 400 Series didn't care. Its ladder frame was massive. Suspension components were brutally strong. Axles were industrial. These trucks were expected to carry concrete mixers, tipper bodies, and heavy equipment through sites that looked more like battlefields than workplaces. The engines were chosen for torque and longevity. They weren't flashy, they were dependable. They ran day after day, often idling for hours, then working at full load. Gearboxes were thick, slow-turning, and designed for punishment. What made these trucks special was their tolerance for neglect. Construction work is unforgiving. Maintenance is often delayed. Operators are rough. Loads are excessive. The Seddon Atkinson absorbed all of it. Many worked for 30 years or more. They outlived companies. They outlived contracts. They outlived their supposed replacements. Newer trucks brought in with electronics and lighter frames failed under the same conditions. The old 400 series kept moving. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't modern. It was unstoppable. Number 3. Tatra T148. The Tatra T148 is one of the most unusual and indestructible trucks ever built. Designed in Czechoslovakia, it was engineered for terrain where normal trucks simply could not survive: mountains, forests, mines, and military zones. Its secret was its backbone frame and swinging half-axles. Instead of a traditional ladder frame, the T148 used a central tubular spine that housed the driveline. This design protected critical components from damage and allowed extraordinary articulation over rough ground. The result was a truck that could crawl where others broke. Under the cab sat a massive air-cooled diesel engine. No radiator, no coolant, no hoses to burst. It was immune to freezing and overheating in ways water-cooled engines could never be. These trucks worked in mines, forests, and construction sites where roads barely existed. They hauled timber out of mountains. They carried stone from quarries. They operated in deep mud, snow, and rock. They were abused. They were overloaded. They were neglected, and they kept moving. Many T148s are still working today, long after modern trucks have failed in the same environments. Their design looks strange, but it works. The Tatra T148 doesn't fear terrain. It ignores it. Number 2. Magirus Deutz 232D. The Magirus Deutz 232D was built around one radical idea: eliminate the most fragile system in a heavy truck, the cooling system. Instead of water cooling, it used an air-cooled diesel engine. No radiator, no coolant, no hoses, no freezing, no boiling. This made the truck legendary in deserts, mountains, and military service. The engine could run in extreme heat. It could start in deep cold. It could survive environments that destroyed conventional designs. It was loud, mechanical, and brutally honest. The frame was heavy. The driveline was industrial. Everything about the truck suggested it had been designed for war, not highways. These trucks worked across Africa, the Middle East, and remote regions of Europe. They hauled supplies where infrastructure barely existed. They ran on bad fuel. They were maintained with limited tools, and they lived. Many Magirus Deutz trucks outlived fleets of modern replacements. Their simplicity became their immortality. They didn't care about conditions. They didn't care about comfort. They cared about one thing, never stopping. Number 1. Brockway 361. The Brockway 361 stands as one of the most brutally honest trucks ever built in the 1970s. Brockway didn't chase trends. They didn't chase comfort. They didn't chase mass production. They built trucks the way blacksmiths build tools, thick, heavy, and meant to be used until nothing was left. The 361 was a highway and heavy-haul truck designed for operators who ran where failure wasn't an inconvenience. It was a disaster. Logging routes, mountain passes, industrial haulage, remote highways. This was a truck built for men who worked alone, far from help. Everything about the 361 was overbuilt. The frame rails were massive, cross members were thick, suspension components were industrial. The truck felt more like a piece of mining equipment than a road vehicle. It was designed to carry enormous loads day after day without twisting, cracking, or weakening. Under the hood sat a heavy diesel chosen for endurance, not flash. It ran at low RPM. It produced torque in a slow, relentless wave. It didn't care about speed. It cared about survival. Operators ran these engines for hundreds of thousands of miles without major failure. The drivetrain was equally unforgiving. Manual gearboxes built for torque, drivelines designed for shock loads, axles that looked like they belonged under military vehicles. Every component was chosen with the assumption that the truck would be abused, and it was. Brockway trucks worked in the harshest environments. They hauled timber out of forests. They pulled heavy loads across mountain grades. They ran in heat, cold, mud, and dust. They were overloaded. They were neglected. They were driven hard. And they survived. When Brockway closed its doors in 1977, many believed the trucks would disappear. Instead, they became legends. Owners refused to scrap them. They rebuilt engines, fabricated parts, kept them alive because nothing new could replace them. In many fleets, Brockways outlived multiple generations of modern trucks. Their replacements came with electronics, lighter frames, and stricter tolerances, and failed under the same abuse. The Brockway kept working. Even today, some are still on the road. Not restored, not preserved, still hauling, still earning. The Brockway 361 is the perfect symbol of the 1970s philosophy. Build it once. Build it strong. Build it so it never has to apologize for existing. It doesn't represent progress. It represents permanence. And in a world of disposable machines, that makes it immortal. These trucks weren't efficient. They weren't clean. They weren't comfortable. But they were honest, and they were immortal. They hauled, pulled, climbed, and endured without complaining. Today's trucks are smarter, faster, and packed with technology. Yet they age faster than these iron giants. Somewhere along the way, we stopped building for eternity. Comment below, which of these beasts would you still trust with your life? And if you respect machines that refuse to die, hit subscribe, because legends like these deserve to keep rolling.